Wycombe Wanderers are top of League One, ahead of Hollywood Wrexham and multi-million-pound Birmingham, but just how have they done it? Welcome back to the Woodwork, and today we're going to be doing a deep dive on Wycombe Wanderers and how they're top of League One in what is quite a competitive league at the top. I mean, League One is always basically 5 or 6 teams that are more or less championship standard, and then the rest of the league is just a load of rubbish most of the time. But you know, Wycombe are top. So a big reason why Wycombe are top of the league is definitely their transfers in the summer. So I put it up here. So a lot of it is free transfers and loan transfers, which is standard for sort of League One and League Two in England. You know, there's no real sense in buying players when there's free transfers and loans from higher clubs that you're going to get more out of than purchasing a player for a price, especially for a club like Wycombe. But really good frees here, as well as the loans, which we'll get onto in a minute. But Onyedema from Luton made multiple Premier League appearances last season and spent the first half on loan at Rotherham in the Championship. So obviously playing a bit lower down than he's used to, perhaps. But there's so many good transfers in here. I mean, Daniel Udo, we'll look at how the team works in a minute, but on transfers alone, there's a lot of good frees here. Daniel Harvey, Aaron Morley on loan from Bolton, very good signing that. Cameron Humphreys on loan from Ipswich. These are all players that have played at Championship or higher standard, apart from Dan Harvey, but he still works well in the team. What I like about Wycombe's business is that they've not bought a load of players that have been promoted from the league or have been in the league for a long time. They've almost buying players that have a point to prove, and I think that can really help you in a promotion push like what they're trying to do now. Like, for example, you know, Dan Harvey, defender, conceding 8 goals in the playoffs. Onyedema struggled last season with both his times at Rotherham and Luton. So these are all players that have something to prove, and I think that's really important because, you know, so many teams, like look at Birmingham, they're buying players that have already been and done it a lot of the time, as well as some young talent. But I feel like there's players that Wycombe have brought in and players that were already existing at the club that almost have their own little stories, and I think that can really help the team in a promotion push. Talking about stories, Richard Kone has scored 9 goals in 15 games. Everyone's heard the story, you know, homeless and just recently been given a new contract to Wycombe, so that's a great story there for the young player. But he's earned it. He's been brilliant so far this season. He's scored a hat-trick off the bench as well, so you know, can start and be an impact player, which I think is really important. You know, he's almost versatile in that way. But he's not the only one. You know, there are many players with stories at Wycombe. You know, you look at Franco Ravizoli, the goalkeeper, you know, being a backup at his previous clubs, maybe playing in non-league, then going to be back up at his previous club, coming in as almost a third choice at Wycombe, to then being the number 1 starting keeper, keeping clean sheets at the top of League One. So, you know, really good for these players and really good for the team and Matt Bloomfield, who we'll get onto now. So Wycombe have survived the scare from Coventry, so it seems. As of recording the video, nothing's confirmed yet, but Matt Bloomfield, as far as we know, will be staying at Wycombe, as Coventry going for a bigger name, as you would. More of a Van Nistelrooy or a Frank Lampard, I think, a link with a Coventry job, which, I mean, whatever, this video is not about Coventry. But no, Matt Bloomfield has stayed at Wycombe, which I think made sense. I mean, he was always going to be more of a project manager anyway, and that didn't really make sense for what Coventry need now. Coventry want promotion now, not in 2 or 3 years' time, like Wycombe wanted 2 or 3 years ago. So it made sense for him to stay at Wycombe, and he's done a really good job. I mean, you know, this club is at the top of the league for the size of Wycombe and the budget, and as we said, you know, they didn't really buy anyone in the summer. It was all loans and free transfers, and I know you pay loan fees and signing on fees and what have you, but, you know, really smart business from them. And yeah, top of the league, as at the start of the video, ahead of Wrexham and Birmingham, who, Wrexham maybe not so much, but have spent a lot of money. Birmingham spent £50 million on a striker, and 21-year-old Richard Kone has more goals in the league than him. But, you know, who am I to tell a club what to do? I said Birmingham would be top of the league earlier this season. I said it was a no-brainer, and here we are. So what do I know? But no, I mean, 15 games, a game in hand of Wrexham as well. 11 wins, 2 draws and 2 losses. So really good side, really good side. So I'll put it on screen now. So this is the way they sort of line up Wycombe and how Matt Bloomfield has them set up in a game. So flat back 4, which suits all the players in it, especially the full backs, which we'll get onto in a minute. two other midfielders, 4-2-3-1, Kone smashing the goals at the moment. So, you know, the bench has more or less been the same. They've got a lot of players there that have been there for a while. So they've got a lot of stability, Wycombe, in their squad. And it must be a good mood around the camp to have people like Gareth McCleary and people like that just around with all his experience will no doubt help all the young loans and the players coming in settle. So, yeah, I'm just going to get onto the fullbacks actually, because Dan Harvey is a big talking point in this team. Someone who wasn't somewhat pushed out by MK Dons towards the end and playing out of position in centre back on the left of the three, which, well, he was either that or a wing back, and I don't think either of those suit Dan Harvey. He's one of those where he's not really good at defending, but he's not really good at attacking. You can do a bit of both. So being in a flat back four at left back, I think suits him probably. You know, I did him a bit of a disservice there. He is a good player, and he, you know, has been playing very well this season. I just think that being a left back rather than a left wing back suits him better. I think having the structure around him and not as much license to go forwards as he has the players, you know, like Udo and Kone and Onyedinma in front of him. He doesn't have to, they're not relying on him on that left-hand side to provide the attacking outlet. And I think that's important for his form this season, as I think that's what he struggled with at MK Dons last season in League Two. But yeah, I mean, it's a solid, I mean, this is from their most recent game as they're recording the video, and they beat Lincoln 3-2 away from home at Lincoln, a very difficult place to go. Very good win that. But this is just how they set up in that game, and that's how they set up in all their games. And I think the stability in this team is important. I think it's very balanced as well. You know, I think he's got a really good, strong side here. They're not quite how they were under Ainsworth. Bloomfield's trying to do something unseen in Wycombe in the last 10 years and actually play some football, which has done really well for them, as you can see in the league, which we'll get onto now. 35 points for 15 games. Second is Wrexham with 31 points from 16. So at the moment, they're 4 points clear. Yes, Birmingham have one game on hand on them, and if they win that, they'll be 2 games, but there'll be 2 points, behind Wycombe. But I think they're in a really good position. And it's credit to the manager and it's credit to the players. And the only question is now is that can they maintain this form all the way through the next 2/3 of the season? Scoring 35 goals and only conceding 18 is unheard of. I mean, but Birmingham have only scored 26, and yes, they've only conceded 15, but to score 9 more goals than a team that spent over £20 million on attacking players is pretty incredible. And I don't see where this loss is going to come from a Wycombe point of view. I just don't. You know, defensively they're solid. Their midfield is very consistent, and they all work together. They've got a good bench. Forward line, very good. Richie Kone, as long as he's scoring, you're staying up there. I think Wycombe will win the league this year. I think Birmingham probably comes second, because I think that Wrexham and Stockport, the 2 promoted sides from last season, I think they'll be the 2 to fall off. Maybe not fall off too much. I still see Wrexham definitely getting in the playoffs, and as long as Louis Barry stays at Stockport, they have a chance. But yeah, I think Wycombe definitely have what it takes. They have games in hand over some of these teams, 2 over Stockport as well. So I think they definitely have what it takes. They need to be consistent. They need to keep their players in January. I think if you've got a goal scorer in League One, half of the Championship at least is after him. So holding on to Richard Kone with that new contract is very important. And yeah, so keep an eye on Wycombe for the rest of the season. Hopefully they do well. Anyway, this was The Woodwork. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll be back soon.